Hi, Valentin. I want to start with this one word I heard many times from you, and I love hearing it each time you talk about it. This idea of being a game changer.
Mm,
Why don't we kick it off with what does that mean to you?
Good question. I mean, I think that word came up in my childhood with my dad. We used to watch the movie Iron Man or learn about Elon Musk, and he would say, "These are game changers. Are you going to be a game changer?" And I would say yes, because I had this idea, like, right, like what the word means to me is someone who changes the game of how we do things, or how the world works in a positive way, right? And I always thought, why not? Like, how cool would it be to do that and create a lot of value for the world?
hmm And in your version of being a game changer, how do you want to change the game?
Yeah, I mean, I want to change the world in a lot of different ways. Right now, I think that the main focus for, with monthly, that I'm working towards is creating a world where everyone is creatively fulfilled, right? So our mission is make creative fulfillment attainable for everyone. And basically, we want to create a world where everyone is living their ideal life, they're creatively fulfilled, everyone belongs, they have a community. Basically, a peaceful and playful world where everyone belongs and people are living their ideal lives and are creatively fulfilled.
I love the word creative fulfillment. Tell us a little bit more about what does that look like? Like how does someone's life change? What gets added to their life? How they act differently?
Yeah, good question. So, for creative fulfillment, right, people usually have an idea of the things that they want to do and create, right? But there's something that's stopping them. Either that's opportunities or their skills or their community. And if you have a lot of the resources and you have the skills and you have the structure and you can learn, you can actualize yourself and the things that you want to create and do. So we're closing that gap between your desires and what you want to accomplish and where you are, and your skill.
hmm And how did that happen in your life? How did you first start to get more creatively fulfilled and get the inspiration for this?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I can remember, my favorite thing has been learning and creating things. I was a very curious kid. Used to spend a lot of time, building robots or building apps and launching them in the app store, or writing stories, building my own board games. And I just had a lot of fun. This is where I, this is what I enjoy the most, learning and creating. And I grew up in Cancun, Mexico, and unfortunately, people didn't like learning as much as I did. The school wasn't the cool thing, but I always thought it was a shame because I see learning as the source of human progress and a huge source of fulfillment, right? Because the way,
hmm
because when we learn something, right, then we can create things and we can create value for the world. And so I
Yeah.
think it's yeah, extremely important and
Were,
valuable.
were there were there were there a few stories of uh, how you started to learn how to learn?
Learn how to learn. Yeah, there are some stories that taught me the importance of it and the value, and that it's possible to learn almost anything, right? So to give an
hmm
example, I really liked soccer, but I was extremely bad at soccer trick juggling. Um, I couldn't do more than three, and my dad challenged me, "Hey, in 3 months, we're just gonna do a one try, and you're gonna do 100 juggles in one go. I challenge you to do that." And I'm like, okay, let's try it. And so, my record was three. I was really bad, but I would go out every day after my soccer practice to practice, 30 minutes, 1 hour every day. And I would just go and practice. And I would watch YouTube videos. And, 2 weeks in, my record was still just six. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not improving that much. I'm not going to be able to get there. It's really hard. But I just kept on practicing, kept on learning. And 3 months passed, and I told my dad, okay, I'm ready. I started doing the juggles, I did 50, I did 100, I did 200, I did 300, and ended up 396. And I just went, above and beyond. What was that? And it really showed me that, even 3 months ago that I could only do three, if I just put my mind to it and practice and learn, I can achieve it. And that really changed my worldview of like what was possible. And so I started doing a lot of the challenges myself. And there was a lot of other things, right? I did things like, learning year-long curriculums in 2 weeks for math, or I was taking, machine learning from Stanford on Coursera, when I was, in I think it was a little bit over middle school, like high school. And I was taking things like, quantum computing also online. And I just went into things, just wanting to learn and dive into things for the sake of learning, but I was very curious and I wanted to create things. And one quote that really resonated with me that I saw during these like explorations was, a little bit of slope makes up for a lot of y-intercept, which just says that the growth and the slope matters much more than where you currently stand.
Mm-hmm. And well, one thing that always stood out for me is like, you hit the challenge with, juggling 100 times. Maybe you go 150, you're like, okay, I killed this. Like, why put more practice? Why go to like 400? Like, that just seems a lot of effort. Why don't stop when you achieve the goal?
Good question. I mean, I think in some cases, it makes sense to stop when you achieve your goal, right? Because you want to be smart about how you allocate your resources and opportunity cost, right? There's some cases where, let's say you're doing something and the goal was not really just a goal, it was just a direction, right? And you really, it makes sense to go beyond, right? Like let's say you're starting a startup, let's say you had the goal of getting 10,000 users, you're not going to stop at 10,000 users, right? You want to go beyond. That was just a goal that served more as a direction, right? So
Mm-hmm.
usually a lot of times I like to think of goals as directions. Sometimes it's helpful to, put a specific number, but it's usually a direction toward that you're working towards. And then, why even go beyond, right? Like why set a direction? Why you can go more, right? I think of our lives that, our lives are short relatively in the scope of the universe. And if life is already short, why, you might as well just make it big, right? You might as well, if you're going to spend a specific amount of time already in your life, as a whole, or doing something, you might as well just go above and beyond, or do the best possible of life that you can, because
Yeah.
you're going to be spending the same time. So that's how I think about it. And that's why a trick for learning that I love doing is time blocking, just setting a timer for, let's say, 20 minutes for something, and just going as hard as possible for that amount of time, because I know that, I might as well do it because I only have that amount of time. It's kind of a psychological trick.
As we're wrapping up, to finish with potentially one advice you might have for all the future founders we have in the audience.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of advice. I think one really important advice is think for yourself. But another one that's more related to learning is, when you're starting out, you should think about what is the highest, the thing that I can do to learn the most, right? A lot of times we think about minimal viable product, but I think a lot of times I like to think about it minimal viable learning, right? So the thing that you can do to learn more about like what you're trying to build and your customer, your audience, and your problem, that's where you can make the biggest jumps. Because if you learn and understand more, then you can do better things. So always think
Mm-hmm.
about it, optimizing it in terms of learning is really valuable.
Well, what do you mean when you said think for yourself?
Oh, think for yourself is, don't just take things as they come, like what society tells you. Because society has a set amount of things that are not true, and you have to think for yourself, does this actually apply to me? Does it apply to what I'm building? Is this actually this consensus thing? Is it wrong? And you can uncover a lot of things and do things in a much better way if you think for yourself, not only because, you know, the society might be wrong, but also because something might not apply to you, or you might have different preferences, different ways that you want to do things, or ways that might be better in a different, if you do them in a different way for you. So think for yourself is extremely important.
Now I'm curious. How was that reflected in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a variety of ways. One way is, you know, people say that, you know, after college, it's better to just go get a job and learn about something, and then later to start your own startup. But I thought for myself and realized that it's better for me to go in straight to doing my own startup. And it's a very circumstance-based thing, but, you know, you have to think for yourself. This actually make sense for me. That's one thing. Or another thing was creating, you know, monthly was a lot of like thinking, you know, my co-founder Max and I, we thought for ourselves, you know, what makes the most sense? How is online education right now not working? Let's think about like how do we make it better? Even before that, we did a lot of our own like personal learning projects, where we also thought for ourselves, you know, what do we want? What type of life do we want to live? And then try to carve that in specific learning challenges. So my co-founder Max did a year-long project learning a skill every month. I also did a similar project I call Rehuman. I was learning across 15 skills every week, things like salsa dancing, music production, etc. And, you know, designing that project, designing the plan, everything is all about thinking for yourself. How do you want to create this? So that was also another example. Yeah, and I could go on and on.
I know you can. So to wrap it up, I'll say, be a game changer, think for yourself are the two lessons here. Thank you very much, Valentin.
And optimize for learning. I think learning
optimize for learning. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.